Welcome to Tableplant Podcast.
So, hello and welcome everybody listening and watching already the fourth episode of our GDA podcast. My name is Jankuhn and I'm a third year graphic design student here in Arnhem.
And my name is Middle and I'm a second year student, also here at Graphic Design Arnhem. And the guests invited for today are CORALIE and MONIKA. A very warm welcome to you guys.
So, we're going to start by giving a small summary of what we found about you guys on the internet. So, who you guys are. If you want to add anything, just let us know afterwards. So, Coralie, you studied at Artes and at the Sandberg Academy. You have had your own studio for 11 years now. You were recently featured in a Forbes article about your work with emotion recognition. And you currently have 1,065 followers on Instagram, while you follow 357 people yourself. Is there more?
Well, there's more, but funny that you mentioned the Instagram. Thanks for the introduction. Great.
And then an introduction on MONIKA. MONIKA also studied at Artes and the Sandberg Institute. And from 2007 until 2010, you were a graphic designer for Hungry Lab. And you also did an internship in Berkeley, California at Stripe for 3 months. And an internship in Brussels for 4 months at Slavs and Tatars. And you have worked in a collaborative graphic design studio called Guys and Burls. And you are a co-founder of NXS World, a collaborative platform exploring the self in age of digital technologies. And currently you have 796 followers on Instagram and 1,623 following. Do you have anything to add?
It's interesting what you also found. I was also thinking, because I think my profile pages are unupdated as well. But interesting, thank you.
Okay, great. So we are going to start with 4 questions that we ask everybody who joins here. And then later we will move on to more specific fields. But the first question is, how did you end up here? And then all the questions are for both of you guys.
Good question. Nice one. I'm coming from an environment where culture was not thought or anything. We never went to a museum. But I wanted to do art academy because I think I just could draw. I could draw really well, so that was basically it. But I didn't know any artists, and I was very. We didn't have that much culture also in home, but we had these great books of. Maybe you know him, but Rien Poortvliet. He's like this drawer that makes great drawings about animals and farm life, and I loved these books, and I thought I also want to become an artist. And then I wanted to do autonomous art, but then my father said, but then I'm not going to pay the college amount for the money. So, and then graphic design was a nice way to still have to have an idea of a future where you could earn money between stuff. So then I decided to do graphic design, and then I think I just picked a booklet somewhere with all the graphic design departments in the Netherlands, and I think Arnhem had the highest grade at that time. I applied, and with no knowledge and also only drawings, and I also didn't have drawing in my high school or anything, so it was very basic. And I said, I like Rien Poortvliet, and then they said, wow, that's so original. And everybody says Salvador Dali, and you say Rien Poortvliet. And I didn't know Dali, so I was like, oh. So it was an interesting conversation. But I'm very grateful that I got accepted. Yeah.
So my journey to here was pretty long and roundabout, but also spontaneous at the same time. I started to be interested first in painting, like when I was a child also, but then at some moment I thought I'm gonna study biology, and I was really into that and really being in that kind of research. But then I understood that I like biology because of all the images that I was like flipping through in these encyclopedias of how all the like zoomed in microscopic images of a cell look like. I think I understood that I'm actually more drawn to that than to really becoming a scientist. But when I started to study graphic design in Latvia, well, actually it was called like computer design. But there was like just few traces of maybe what graphic design is, because there's not like such a big tradition of graphic design, especially education in Latvia. So while I was studying that, I wasn't really sure what that is. But I maybe wanted also more kind of this practical side of art rather than like being autonomous painter. But still, in the first school in Latvia, I was still more drawn to painting. But I think I didn't continue that because I somehow felt I didn't know what's new I can. Because painting is also such an old medium, and I think there are people that can like really do something new with painting, but I had really trouble imagining what, except like replicating some kind of styles that I like what new can I actually say with that. So I think then within design, especially when I came here, like study here, it really it completely also changed my mind what design is and what it can be. And also, I think then I started to see how it can also be a tool to express some new ideas rather than replicating the old traditions. But Arnhem, I didn't know of the city, I didn't know of like anything about it, but there was this studio, Leslie Moore, that they studied here years ago, and my friends did internship there, and because of them I found this school. And I thought, because I already did some education in Latvia, I thought, well, I really like Dutch design, but I could not understand what is the thinking behind it. So I thought I want to go to school to get like the behind the scenes, or get to know what the thinking behind is. But in my mind, I thought, well, I'm just going to study for a year, and because I didn't want to. Because when I started in Arnhem, I was already 25, so I thought I don't want to spend so much time here. But I ended up really enjoying it. I stayed here to study for the 3 years and finish the education. And that's so it was kind of by accidentally meeting certain people. And to teach here, like I never also intentionally look for teaching jobs. It was also kind of very suddenly. I got a call Wednesday, and on Friday there was already the first lesson that I had to give, so there was no time to think about it. It maybe scared me a little bit, because I didn't know if I really like to be in front of people, or kind of what teaching is like to do that. But it was nice that there was this sort of tryout period, because first it was said that it will be necessary for 5 times, so I thought, okay, let's give it a try. But I actually really enjoy it. I find it interesting to follow somebody's process for longer periods of time. And there's actually a lot of, because the artist, I think, gives a lot of freedom not only for the students but also for the teachers to teach in a different way. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and talking about meeting people, how did you guys meet? When did your paths cross?
Well, you helped me. When was it? Was it for the annexes?
But I think I saw you when I was doing internship for MetaHeaven, and you were participating in a video for Holly. You were hand model,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That was, I think, the first time that I saw
That's
it.
funny. That's funny.
But then CORALIE also participated in NXS, in the previous one, in algorithmic anxiety. About artificial intelligence, about your project, also about the motion tracking. So that was kind of where professionally we crossed our paths. Yeah. And yeah, before that we met you also in an exhibition at MOO. That's I think where we saw your work and thought that's like really interesting, would be really interesting for in the context of NXS.
Could you maybe explain a bit more what NXS is?
NXS is so it's a research platform where we invite different people to make work either visual or text-based, can be like poems or experimental text, but it is about, it is exploring what, the changing perception of the self in an age of digital technologies or the digital age. And its main outcome is a publication, but also we do exhibitions or some artwork or different formats. It's like extended publication, and it is the editorial process is a quite specific one. It is always started by one person's contribution, and then it's passed on to the next person, which then gets influenced by or inspired by and creates a piece further. So it's like a chain reaction or chain influence. And this way we try to discover, together with the people that are participating, try to kind of unfold a certain subject within the context of the self in age of digital technologies, but every time there's a more specific theme. So when CORALIE participated, it was called algorithmic anxiety, so about this algorithms that how are they influencing our daily lives, but they are also this kind of unknown thing that everyone has a certain emotional reaction to. So yeah, we are also looking at this digital technology influence more from kind of personal stories, personal perspectives, personal experiences, rather than just like kind of more rational or more academic. Even though we try to also connect people from different backgrounds, both from neuroscientists that is responding to a blogger, that is responding to an avatar. So how to unfold something by putting different people in a dialogue.
So our next question is, what did you want to become when you were younger? Maybe Coralie, you were...
Oh, what did you become? Ringpoortvliet? No. What did I want to become? It's sometimes hard to go back and to think what you really wanted. I was so young, I didn't know, I think. But I think visual art for me was also like the other world, like it was mysterious. It was, for me it was also some form of escapism, or like to escape, to create, to be able to be in a world where you can be yourself or something and to create. I think it was more or less a feeling of wanting to belong to a world where you could express. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, it's all these funny anecdotes that doesn't have anything to do with my work you now trigger. But for example, when I was young, I really had the wish or the dream that I was, this sounds so weird, but to be, that I was adopted from a gypsy family, or I was, I was this, I don't know, I really had the sense, I want to belong to a group of people that are creating, that are like, making music or dancing, or I really had the urge to wanting to belong to something lively, like. Yeah.
And that was also maybe because did you miss that, or was it just?
Yeah, I think like it was I think so. But let's not dive too much into it.
No, we're. So, Monika?
If I think back to quite young, I remember some scenes of like watching National Geographic or something to that kind, where I saw like a woman researching in like elephants, but spending like 20 years in a kind of by herself and just like researching these animals. So I don't know, somehow I imagined myself like, yeah, doing that. but after that was a moment where I wanted to research genes and go into more kind of biology, then also theology. I don't know. I think I was like really searching for a lot of directions, but
Already really research based, also kind of just like questioning everything.
maybe, but like very, like not very conscious of that, maybe.
And then, what was your first job ever?
Working in the zoo, I think.
Wow.
I drove the train to drive everybody around, like the little kids. And then I had to explain something about the jaguars or whatever. And when I was really young, I wanted to work in the zoo. So and then I had that, and then I thought, now what? Anyway, that was my first job.
I actually don't remember. I think for most part of my life, I have not really worked in a traditional settings. Like it has either been working with friends or working kind of independently. I wasn't really working when I was like going to high school. Like I was like living not in a city, so my parents had to like I don't know. I wasn't in a traditional working settings for a long time. Oh yeah, for a few months I also worked in an advertisement agency. I think that was my first job.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the first field, which is artist. So these are kind of questions based around the artist life and system and everything. And the first question is, how important is an art school education for the profession of a graphic designer? You can take your time. There's no worries.
Now you can go first.
Probably depends of the person. I think for me that was really important, and that's why I think I also did try out to study in several places and was not happy with my previous education. So I came here, and also afterwards in Sandberg. But I think it's also the people that you meet that it just broadens your references, it mixes you with different worldviews, and when you're just by yourself or trying to figure out on your own, of course it's also possible, but I think it depends also what your environment is, what kind of people, and that also then ideas that you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah, maybe it's also clear to express that I'm working as a visual artist currently. So I think I worked as a graphic designer like a couple of years. So I cannot make grand claims of what I think a graphic designer needs. But I think graphic design education is very important to learn. You learn a lot of skills. I think I learned, because I'm working now more in media art, for example. I learned a lot to have a bit of flexibility in softwares and techniques to even though all the software already changed since I was studying, still you have this, you understand the logic of software and programs. And then also I learned a lot of methods here in how to formulate concepts, how to formulate research questions, how to present your work, how to explain your work, how to communicate, how does images come across. I think I learned so much. If I now like what I knew when I started, and after 4 years, it was like I think the biggest leap in knowledge production in my life. So I think you can find yourself after graduating. I think that process. I think you also have to embrace everything during your education. Yeah. So you, of course you also will find yourself, but you also have to embrace things that you maybe at first are like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to design books in the future or something like that. Or I think you have to try everything out.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting that you kind of say the presenting and stuff, because I also kind of feel that as a student here now, is that there's also so much energy that you put into like presenting every day and just being in class and being a part of a discussion, that even often in your, I don't know how you think about it, but like in your day, that takes maybe like 70%, and then the designing is going to be 30%. So that's indeed interesting that you also find that interesting there.
And an important skill to have.
Yeah.
Also, once you prepare something for presentation, it makes you make certain decisions. So that's also sharpens your idea. So this process of making something public, I think actually it is still an important part of the whole designing. Even you're not designing per se, but that helps your designing process.
Right. Yeah, and I also think that just over the years, it's nice that in the first year you're actually kind of unaware that this is such a huge part of it, and I think in the first year you can really feel overwhelmed that every week you're going to hang up all your sketches and like all 100 versions, and you're just like again, and I also think it's nice that it does become a bit more like refined and reduced throughout the years. So
and also the open conversations with the class contribute to that, like feedback from your peers. Talking about your time at Artes, the next question is, what is the main difference between when you studied here and how it is now?
When were you studying here? Yeah, I was a long time ago, 2000, 2004. And you?
I don't know the years now. It was around 10 years ago, something like that. But was it when I graduated? Because when I graduated, that was the year that Thomas started to be the head of the department.
Thomas Castro.
Castro.
For the ones in podcast.
Yeah.
For the podcast listeners that don't know.
Yeah. While I was studying, there was a lot of most of the focus was on the print-based, on books, on posters, on like really not so much moving image or other types of medium. But like the year that we graduated, we actually I graduated with looping GIFs. So that was like something completely different that I did the 3 years before or 2 years before that. So I think that year something was switching, and now I think people are also exploring so many other mediums, and also the classes are more varied in that that there is like a time-based class and other more programming and other classes like that.
Yeah, I think I agree. And then when I was there, so that was 2000, so that's already, oh my god, 20 years ago. Rijn Haukes was the head, and it was much more applied. So a lot of like print-based assignments basically we were doing. And I remember I wanted to graduate with a photography project, and it was also not allowed for a long time, so I had to struggle a bit. So yeah, the autonomous atmosphere that's now currently at the department wasn't there.
So we are slowly going to move on to the second category here, which is graphic design, but also kind of visual arts. So we will not pin you guys down too much in the field of graphic design. Okay, so this is a statement from CORALIE. We found an interview from you with Paul Witteman in 2009. And
it's so long ago.
It says, sometimes you need to cross boundaries to make a statement. And kind of the question in the statement is, do you guys still both agree with this?
I know where this is coming from. At that time I was making much more political work, and it also was work that was pushing boundaries basically, like provoke a reaction from the public, and that the reaction was also part of the work. Yeah, so this was a book that was together with Tinkerbell. That's a visual artist that also provokes, and she made, for example, a bag out of her cat, she claimed. And yeah, this evoked a lot of discussion, and actually she wanted to discuss how we deal with animals in the meat industry. But yeah, she got a lot of hate mails, thousands of them, people wanting to say that she should be dead. And at that time, this was a very new phenomenon. and she came to me, hey, I want to make a book out of this. And then I decided, okay, let's find out who those people were. So I kind of was a detective for 4 months, and then I said, let's print it all out, like every information I can find. And this is of course very, it's provocative, and it's also, I mean, there were a lot of young kids, they're like 16 years old. So yeah, it was kind of a statement. And but yeah, I thought if we print it in a small amount and we don't put it online, it's kind of more this, like a visualization of like a research, like what's behind this phenomena of like huge, like the emails were so cruel, but then you discovered there were kids behind it. Anyway, I'm drifting now. What was the question? If I'm still behind it? Yeah, it's interesting because I think it was also a different time back then. I don't know if you can still do this kind of work, or I don't know. I'm
well, yeah, but would you still agree with the crossing boundaries to make a statement in that sense?
If you make political work, so at that time it was really, for me, it was also about the statement and about wanting to address something. I have that now more or less. I want to make more work that's a bit more nuanced and a bit more. But if you want to address a certain issue, I think that's the way to go. But maybe I will think. Let me think a bit longer on it.
I think it is important to, it can be quite widely interpreted, I guess, if I just like listen to it as a statement, but to search for what kind of boundaries are maybe set by a kind of someone in power or society, or what's, also when someone is making work, like where are the limits of what you maybe used to do so far, and how to cross those kind of boundaries. I think that is important to look for new boundaries, or
Is it something you explore in your work, these boundaries, or?
In some ways, I think,
Is it maybe also about challenging yourself, how you keep on triggering yourself in a way?
Yeah.
And what are your personal ways of doing that? To keep challenged or inspired throughout the process?
I guess there can be different aspects, like experimenting also with new techniques, or like different ways of expressing something aesthetically, or it's now maybe it's a little bit vague, a bit abstract to answer, but.
So did you have anything to add still about the?
Oh yeah, I thought about it. Yeah, I think I still agree, actually.
Yeah, you would still do it?
Well, it's more now from an artistic point of view that I don't make this work anymore. But I think I still would do it if I want to make a statement, yes.
Yes, the next question is graphic design a lifestyle that you follow even when you are not working? Or do you find ways to escape from the art world?
Yeah, so maybe in a sense of, we often feel like when we're here in school, you're kind of in a bubble. Mm-hmm. And it's often presented as graphic design is the only thing in the world. And when you kind of go outside of graphic design, for example, if you look at, any other, like anything else, we always approach it with this idea of like, oh, is this graphic design, or how is this designed? And sometimes we don't accept things, or we are too critical because these graphic designer glasses are on, and we kind of try to judge everything to kind of this standard or this aesthetic or this meaning it should have. And kind of our question is, do you guys also find kind of ways to totally put it aside in your daily life?
Yeah, how do you ever take off the glasses, and if so, in what ways?
That's definitely not the only thing to life for me, but it can get it can overwhelm, especially if you work on your own or as a kind of freelancer, it can really blend into this unscheduled working time that can, especially when starting out, I think that's like a common thing to just constantly be on this graphic, on like, yeah, whatever you do, like blend in that with your personal life. But I think right now I'm also interested how these other areas of life, like even like also other art forms, like how can that influence the design, or also, I don't know, how where is the overlap between dance and graphic design, or where is the overlap between thinking about your health and design, or music. I think I'm also more getting inspired from musicians or other kind of art forms, or just life or nature, just something that is like completely unrelated to design, that like sort of mix or influence that has some sort of impact on what I'm interested in design as well.
Yeah, I think I agree, but also I think, yeah, I have a bit of difficulty with the question also, because I don't have the feeling I have a certain glasses, or the glasses is me in a way, like, and I feel like I also don't know which discipline sometimes I'm part of. Actually, I'm also I feel a bit of interdisciplinary, and indeed I'm inspired by different disciplines. Could even be cooking or something, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, and I don't think I put that glasses off, because that's basically who I am, or something. Does that make sense? Or was that not what you were looking for?
I think it makes sense, and I think it's also something that, I guess why we asked the question is it's something that you really sense in this school also. And I don't know how you experience that, but I always, when I leave here on Fridays, I'm like, okay, finally, I don't have to, think about anything in a sense that it relates to design. So when I'm like watching a movie, I can just watch a totally horrible movie on Netflix and not feel this kind of guilt of, oh, I should be watching something very underground that is challenging my inner artist. Kind of in that sense.
But at the same time, what you're saying, that it's also part of yourself, you do notice things in a different way that you might not realize in the moment, but later on use or grasp back on, I think.
Or maybe even how when you watch this horrible movie, you probably watch it in a certain way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm always very actively trying to just like take it off, because I sometimes also feel like it kind of takes me out of reality. So sometimes you kind of forget that there's more to life than kind of, graphic design is very specific, of course, but also kind of this artist view of it. And sometimes life is really practical. So I think it's just an interesting kind of back and forth sometimes. And for some people, it's really a part of them, and for others, it's they turn it on and off.
Yeah, I guess it's about the pressure of what you think you should do, but then you have to escape that maybe also at a certain time, that it becomes more you and you don't feel the pressure from outside.
But I'm also, like, as a designer, for example, I'm also interested in like these kind of daily behaviors, or what's the kind of how the daily life also is relevant, or it could be interesting. So even when maybe not thinking about design, when watching just like stupid show on Netflix, it can still be an interesting information later, because it's probably something that you have in common with more people, or maybe there's some kind of references that you can take from that and everyone will recognize. So even like all those unrelated things that is just life can also be part of. Yeah, you have to be perfect. So.
No, you probably think, oh, that's a funny archetype. I know this archetype before from other movies, so that's, I think, typically more like an artistic gaze, I guess. Yeah. Or I don't know. But
I think it's also kind of beautiful in a sense that what I hear you also kind of saying is that you don't always realize it in the moment, but that sometimes it can be more of like a looking back at it. So it doesn't have to be that you were on that moment while you were watching that movie, that you were like actively analyzing everything. But that it can be just more kind of you use yourself as your own database.
Your life experience enriches and your thinking afterwards. Yeah.
Right.
I think we can move on to the section personal. The first question is, what is the most illegal thing that you have ever done?
Oh, I think I crossed the Russian border with a bike, and then I was in. Is this a funny story? I don't know. It was for an art project, but I didn't know what to do, and then I thought I was in Litauen, and I wanted to. You had to have a border zone there, and you could cross it with a bike. And I had actually a Russian visa, so it wasn't that heroic. But actually, I just biked through, and then this alarm went off, and like 10 officers with sticks and came to me, and it was this huge thing. But anyway, I didn't get arrested, so yeah, maybe I will think of a more exciting story.
But if you didn't have visa, you could have get in trouble there. Actually, there can be also quite nasty. Yeah. I have also once crossed it, but it was it was 5 a.m. in the morning, and I went to the bus to go to Belgium, but I realized I had forgotten my passport. But then I just sneaked in, and I thought, well, the bus driver didn't say anything. But then I had trouble to get back, because I didn't have the passport there. But yeah, that's also not like super exciting legal story.
We're not that heroic.
No. What else? Illegal. Oh my god, I don't know.
I had this huge, but that's more like a funny story. I had this 60mm camera to China, and I think it was not allowed because it has this huge battery, and it's like basically a belt with batteries in it, so it looks like a bomb for sure. And I remember the person, they caught me, and then they held it up, and they were looking at me like in pure shock, like, what is this? Anyway, yeah.
That's the most illegal thing you've ever done.
Yeah, good one.
I feel like when I hear this, I haven't traveled that much yet, and I haven't crossed that many boundaries in a way. I think it would be really small, like rebellious things in school, or I don't know, complaining about stuff in school and then changing something in high school maybe. But it's not illegal. It's still just your rights.
Political.
Yeah.
I remember in first year we had a spatial design with Karin, and she would always be kind of challenging us to do stuff that was just not very legal. So I remember for 2 projects, I think I barely got arrested. So the first one was with fire. I was making an installation with fire in a parking garage, and then the guy came. And then the second one was there was a bus stop, and I had the idea to tape it, fully tape it under, but there were also buses coming by. So then I guess so it was totally under tape, and the whole the whole ground was fully taped. And then at the moment I was about to leave, because I just wanted to leave it there, I thought, this is nice, this is art. The police was called, and they came, and but they were really nice, and they took a picture with me for the idea that I said, yeah, it's an art school project, and then they thought, okay, if you take it down. So
yeah, I feel like spatial design kind of triggers that aspect, because I also was once doing a project about fruit stickers, and then I had Peter at that time, and he suggested making it more controversial or critical. So since it's a small icon, putting something small on it like Hitler crosses, and then actually doing that in the supermarket.
What?
okay. Did you do it?
No, I didn't. I turned it another way.
Good. Did you make him do it?
Yeah, no.
Okay. So the next question. Were you raised religious, and does religion still play a part in your life?
I was raised religious, sort of, not kind of forcefully, but I grew up in a Christian family. I was baptized as I was 6, and I think I've always had this kind of inner belief in God that have never left me, even though I was like actually heavily involved in church as a teenager. That was like all my life, and I left it sort of because of some things about the church as an institution didn't really sit right, and also the kind of loving people but then excluding, and kind of like this just didn't feel right. But the kind of the essence and believing in God, I think that is just like so integrated into who I am that I could not it's just like part of who I am, I think.
I guess we have to, now not completely in common, but I was raised Reformed, so that's like a more stricter version maybe than you. What kind of religion?
Lutheran.
Yeah, so geformeerd, you would say in Dutch. So 2 times every Sunday to church. I had catechisatie, like Bible school 2 times. It was like a full-time job. I was at a Reformed high school also, so I didn't know anybody outside of the church. So like only my neighbors, and they were like heathens, you would say. So art school was also the first time I got to know people outside of the church.
The same.
Yeah. So it was like amazing, a whole new world opened. But I really broke with it. Like I can recognize indeed. I as a kid I believed, but at a certain point it didn't make sense anymore. But also maybe it feels like you're stuck in this system. Like you didn't know there was this outside world, and I think I maybe also felt a bit like lied to, like, oh, this is the world, this is the truth, and there's nothing out there, and then hey, but there is, and actually it's very exciting. But it took a while to break from it. That's a whole process. Then I become too personal.
I think that's also something we kind of, at least what I noticed a lot in the school is also, I come more from the Randstad, where religion, for me, it played a part. Like my dad is very religious, but then my mom isn't. So I was kind of one of the only people, I know you're also from the Randstad, who was kind of involved in the church, not super heavily. But then I came here, and all of a sudden, like I was expecting like all these loose people like on drugs half of the time. But then what I saw was actually a lot of people coming from very religious families and kind of cultures, and that has been kind of also really eye-opening to kind of see how it really plays a different parts in everybody's life. So it's been also kind of really nice to explore that, especially here in a city like Arnhem, which is big, but it's also very small. Everybody knows each other.
Yeah, for me it was indeed safe enough to explore. Yeah. At least felt it would be too much probably, and probably I wouldn't get accepted there too. And I agree. Here I think they're more willing to, if they see you have some form of talent or critical voice or eye, then they accept you, and you can grow here, and you get the opportunity to explore all these things. And in other art schools you often already have to explore, or you have to, So I feel that's nice that there is a chance, also for more like conservative background people.
Yeah, and that it's also not like beaten out of people. Yeah. So I remember like last year there was a girl from our class, and she was going to the movies for the first time, and she kind of expressed that in class, and people were just excited for her, and it's not like people kind of get forced in one way or another, but it's been a very nice like kind of coexistence. I feel like.
Yeah, these personal backgrounds also makes it richer for the people that maybe are religious to get to know people that aren't, but also even the differences in religions, and also the sensitivity to something that is not material, that can maybe transform while doing art education in a different ways, but I think that can also be valuable in the process, like not just as some kind of restriction, but also as a different way of seeing, but then also adding the arts education on top of it. So it can be an interesting mix actually as well.
Yeah, I think it's nice that you mentioned it because I had never thought about the difference since I'm also from the Randstad. But now that you mention it, I do think there's like what you say about the girl going to the movies for the first time. Really no judgment here. Often, at least in my class, I really feel like that I can say anything, and I really appreciate that. But I haven't been to an art school in the Randstad, so I cannot really compare. But I think it's interesting to think about. Yeah. Moving on to another personal question, I think quite random. If you would go to a deserted island, what would you take?
What would I take? My laptop? Yeah, that's so
We can
boring
give some answers
answer.
that previous guests we had cheese and a potato.
Yeah, I would say laptop because then I can still keep on working.
But
Yeah.
if there's no electricity,
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know, clothing. Oh no, am I alone?
For how long are we going?
forever.
Forever.
Oh, it sounds like horror. It's funny. I was in Thailand on holiday, and it was like the perfect island. It was paradise. And then, after 5 days, I was like, no, I don't want to live in paradise. But
I guess maybe some kind of device that I could still get in contact with people that aren't on the island. Because I think I wouldn't take any, that sounds, I would like to just be there and do nothing, but I think to feel that I'm still part of a bigger world would be important.
Yes. So since in this school and in arts, we're often behind our laptops, how actively are you guys seeking for an offline experience? Coralie is doing heavy yes. Maybe you can start.
yeah, no, I'm actively, but I'm not succeeding. Like, I feel sometimes my work is basically like any other office job, like calling, emailing, filling out sheets and docs and applying and writing and arranging and, the creating part is like 10%. And I mean, I love those days, but they're not that much present. And I try to make that offline as much as possible. But I'm really seeking, also I think in society we should seek more into, I feel now all this tendency to, we do more and more online meetings, and I think we all forget that we have bodies that also have a lot of knowledge in them, and like we tend now to become heads or something like. And also from in my work I'm also interested in embodied knowledge and that kind of stuff. So I'm also, since I'm fascinated by algorithms, but also like how they relate to the human body, and like how actually our body is also really smart. And but anyway, we don't have time to really dive into the work. But that's why I was nodding heavily.
I also agree that there is like a lot of also in the design practice there is so much work behind the laptop, also not doing even the creative part, but just organizing and applying or and also the last semester at school was also like so much behind the screens and video calls, and I think the video calls were much more exhausting also than the kind of physical teaching, because you need to kind of, your brain is registering what this person is trying to, like, it's like doing much more heavy work. And then I think it is super important to try to be more aware of what kind of experiences to have, but it doesn't mean like even something like spontaneous or more kind of improvisational movements, or also thinking, I'm also interested like in this kind of the knowledge in the body, but also how like even in education the most emphasis is put like on the head, on the ideas, on the kind of like thinking, discovering, of course also through materials, and there is some sort of embodied part, but also how other kind of like movement can also be a way to learn, discover.
There's this theory that you learn something, you remember something more easier if you expressed it with your body, like, or if you, for example, you have teaching methods where the children would move at the same time they are educated, and then it sticks better.
I also I wonder how would we learn if, like, even I don't know, even if you learn something about physics, but then, like, in a more to combine with the movement, that is like completely different understanding. Also, it's kind of so assumed that people learn too much the same way, and for some people, it's also easier to understand things when they are more physical.
I think maybe one example that comes close to it, I think I mentioned it to you, was the lesson we had last year where we had to close our eyes in the class, and you talked about a landscape really in detail, and then we walked around on our socks through the classroom and walking through the landscape very slowly. I think that was also a way of including your imagination to your body movement, which I thought was a really nice experience.
Cool. Nice.
So the last ending question is, what can we expect from you in the future?
Future, like next year, or future?
Anything.
Future, what you want.
5 minutes, 10 years, anything.
I'm currently doing a project with wearables, so like devices measuring our more inner body worlds, and then how we can relate to that, or how we can now everything I say will sound fake, so let's keep it with that. You can expect a new work on the on wearable technology.
Also, I think one thing is like how to, like the exercise that you mentioned also now, like how to I want to more explore this creating more embodied research, or ways of discovering new methods also for myself, and learning new, using myself also more, this kind of embodied ways of learning.
Okay, great. So I think that was it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I thought it was a really nice conversation.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
And then, I think that's it.
Thanks for listening.